everybody. Welcome to the webinar. As Connor said, Spreadsheet Server is the best thing that has ever happened to me, and I would love to marry it. So my function here at Midwest Property Management is as the analyst, which probably means I love the spreadsheet software a little more than most people would, because my entire life here at the office is creating reports. So if we can go to the next slide. So this is a little bit like a high-level look at our org structure. We take care of 37 residential properties, 19 commercial properties, 3 hotels. They all have separate operations reporting, corporate reporting, and we have 5 separate ownership groups. And as anybody knows, everybody wants to see something very specific and in their own way, and some people think that certain numbers are more important than other people think. Some people like graphs, some people like pivot tables. And so putting together the information for everybody exactly how they want to see it is more than a full-time job. And we bought Spreadsheet Server in July of 2017. If you guys want to go to the next slide. So far I've used all of the really basic functionality, which was super easy to learn, a lot of cash reporting, a lot of accounting reporting. This is one of the reports that I had to create in 2017 for the budget. This goes through a 6-year history of all of our capital reporting. There's something like 37 or 38 general ledger codes for all of our cyclical stuff, which is capital. And this particular report that you can see on the screen right now had to be recreated 65 times. So it had to be done for every single property, both commercial and residential. It had to be done consolidated based on property managers, and then it had to be done consolidated based on ownership groups and various levels of things that people wanted to see. Something like this would typically, even with MRI, take me a couple weeks to do. This set of reports took me 3 hours to create the main report, and then the rest of one day to get all 65 reports out and ready to go for budgets this year. Can you guys go to the next slide? One of the other things that Spreadsheet Server offers, which is really amazing, and it's my goal for 2018 to get better at it, is SQL queries. So not only can you use the base accounting functionality, there is a SQL reporting tool that allows Platinum users to go in and create queries in the data tables to pull more than just accounting information. So my spreadsheet software trainer who came to town helped me create this report. And what it does is it looks for specific general ledger codes in the ledgers of our residents. So in this particular instance, I needed the code AAA or MIN. And what happens is we're trying to figure out what we're committed to every period until the end of the year. So you can see kind of in the middle there where it says date range, I can see what I've been committed to from January 1 to December 31, and then from February to December and March to December, because these commitments fall out over the year, and ownership is always looking to see what our liability is for this particular GL code throughout the year. Now that this sheet has been created once, I literally just hit the refresh button, and I'm good to go, and it updates everything that has been added to the ledgers of our residents. Can you guys go to the next screen? My favorite thing about Spreadsheet Server is the drill down capability. So whenever I create reports for everybody, whether they're good or bad reports, everybody always questions the numbers. If I tell you that you're committed to $350 at a particular site, somebody will often come to me and say, no, that doesn't seem right, or where is that $350 coming from? The drill down capability allows me to answer questions quickly, effectively, and with the right information. So this is an example of a drill down that I did on the numbers from the sheet previous. Not only does it bring up exactly what property I'm talking about, what lease, when it started, what the charge code is, what the amount is, being able to answer these kinds of questions really quickly and off the cuff not only gives people more, confidence in the numbers that I'm putting out, we spend less time between real numbers and making decisions because nobody has to go back and do a bunch of drilling down and figuring out where those numbers come from. It's all right at your fingertips. Next slide, code, whatever. This is another example of something I had to do in the budget season. Our ownerships are not 100%. Some owners own 25% of buildings and 50% of other buildings and 75% of other buildings. So Spreadsheet Server has a thing called a segment list where I was able to build out the properties based on ownership percentages. And because Spreadsheet Server offers all the functionality of Excel, I could do separate tables on the same sheet and combine them together to make an accurate cash reporting of 100% of one property, 25% of another property, and 75% of another property. In times past, either that had to be done manually or the owners were simply given 100% recommendation on everything and they had to figure out themselves what their actual numbers were. This report took about a day for me to put together by the time I figured it all out and how I was going to visualize it. And now it exists, and anytime this particular owner wants an update about where we're at, whether budgets or actuals, I hit the refresh button, and within 20 minutes, I can get them the most up-to-date numbers. Okay, next slide. This is another example of something that I had to do during the budget season. They wanted a rolling 3 years of utility consumption. As you know, when you're trying to do budgets, especially for things like gas and power and hydro, you're really kind of guessing. You're sticking your finger in the air, wondering what the temperature is going to be like one month. So this year they came to me and said, can you give us the last 36 months so that we can see what we should be averaging? So there might have been a more elegant way to put this together, but I'm a new user of Spreadsheet Server, and this is what I managed to cobble together. So as you can see in the blue band at the top, I have my January 2015, the orange band is January 2016, and the green band is January 2017. And in this little highlighted part below, you can see the custom GL that gets created whenever you're using Spreadsheet Server. And because of built-in Excel functionality, because it's still Excel, I was really quickly able to just add those 3 GLs together for those periods and figure out the 3-year average. This sheet took me a half a day to create rather than a couple days worth of running separate reports out of MRI and trying to get an average. And I had to figure this information out for every single property that we own for rolling 36 months. Next slide. So this is what the final report looked like. I could have hidden the green stuff and everything at the top. I just didn't. And over to the right, you can see not only did I leave in the totals on the left, so January was $10,822, but the average over the 3 years was $3,600. So that allowed us really quickly to budget for January approximately $4,000. Getting this kind of information hot off the presses during budget season really helps when the owners are sitting across from you and asking you why you've budgeted that way. Do you think that it's the way it should be? How much thought have you put into that number, or are you just making a guess? It's great for them to have confidence in using historic figures and figuring out what the costs are actually going to be. Next slide. This is another thing that gets run almost on a monthly basis. So we're always budgeting for vacancy loss. Rather than me trying to figure out everything, I just literally run the GLs for vacancy loss and the GLs for revenue and the GL for the budget. And it's a quick variance. I can refresh this at any given time on any given day. It takes about 2 minutes to refresh. And I can send out to everybody exactly where they're sitting compared to budget for vacancy loss. And then we know if we have to reforecast or we know if something's going on at a site. Super helpful. Next slide. And we did the same thing with burden. So it's a little bit tricky to figure out burden on wages because, some people do 100% RSP contribution and some people, don't do RSP contributions at all, and some people max out on benefits and stuff during the year. So we're always running kind of the burden comparison to what we think it's going to be so we can figure out if we've budgeted appropriately and also to help us look forward. So again, it was just the matter of a few GLs, but in the stock MRI cash reports, although I, of course, could edit them to look differently if I needed it to, I was able to run this report, leave the cash flows alone so that everybody who's used to looking at cash flow exactly the way it looks is happy with their numbers. But this just allows me to, at the spur of the moment, answer any questions about where we're at with our burden versus what site and why I think there's a difference, or highlight any significant difference and get back to the property manager right away saying, hey, we're way off forecast, what's going on? And being able to provide these numbers, I just bring my laptop into meetings now, And when we sit there and somebody has a question like, well, how much did that roof replacement cost us in 2016? I don't have to log into MRI. I don't have to look up that GL. I don't have to run cash flows and add everything up. I don't have to do a vendor inquiry. I literally just pull the GL number, pull the number out, and I can do a quick drill down. And it allows us to make decisions within that time frame of the meeting rather than everybody just taking notes and going back to their desk and saying like, okay, everybody, I'm going to get back to you about what these numbers are, and then we can make a decision from there. So I would estimate just since July, I've probably saved a good 75 hours on just regular reporting. I'm super excited to move into the future and do a lot more of the queries and getting a lot more stock reports ready to go and using Distribution Manager, and I can only imagine how much time it's going to save me in 2018.